Okie dokie, drum roll. Time for the long form commentary of the race for NCJP chairman that pits incumbent Michael Whatley, who's going for his third term, against the challenger John Kane. Michael Whatley is from Gaston County and John Kane is from Wake County. So let's take a look at this. But before I go any further, let me say this. This is shaping up to be a very heated race for the office of chairman for a state political party. Now, heated races are okay, and inter-party infighting is okay, up to a point. But what is not okay is when we use hateful language or we say things like this person is a murderer or commits adultery. And I have seen accusations of this kind of behavior on Facebook, and I hope it is not true. And if it is going on, please, it needs to stop right now. On Saturday evening, one person is going to be elected as chairman, and the other one is going to be disappointed. But at the end of the day, we need to accept the election results and move forward and get ready to fight the Democrats in 2024. So, we'll take a look at Michael Whatley here. Some of the good stuff about Michael Whatley. The party is in better shape than it was in the Robin Hayes era. It is winning more elections and has posted better fundraising numbers. And a lot of his supporters will say that he has created this judicial victory fund. But actually that idea came from Republican political consultant Paul Shoemaker. And Whatley acquired the idea from Shoemaker. Then Whatley brought the idea to a vote of the Central Committee of the NCJP, and the Central Committee voted in favor of it. So when someone tells you that Whatley created the Judicial Victory Fund, well, it's actually a bit misleading. But he does and deserves the credit for establishing it within the North Carolina Republican Party. Now, the reason for the Judicial Victory Fund was in response to the GOP losing a lot of statewide races, really in between the cycles of 2014, 2016, and 2018. The program was created in 2019, and in the last two election cycles, the GOP has gone 14 wins and 0 losses in judicial races. And when you have control of the courts, you don't have to worry about good conservative legislation being overturned by liberal activists who are disguised as judges. And you also are dealt a better hand with redistricting. Okay, so let's talk about the bad stuff about Michael Whatley. And please, have a seat or pause the video, go get some snacks and beverages, and then come back, because this is going to be a little bit lengthy and maybe a little bit tough to listen to. Okay, you ready? Okay. The bad of Michael Whatley. Okay, so the GOP could not get a governor elected in 2020, despite the pro-shutdown, the pro-lockdown policies of Democrat Roy Cooper. Now, some of that blame should probably go towards the Dan Forest campaign, specifically Hal Weatherman, who, by the way, is actually running for lieutenant governor, believe it or not. But also some of that blame needs to go to Michael Whatley. And also, we cannot win the Attorney General race. We cannot win Secretary of State. We can't win State Auditor. A lot of races that Whatley gets credit for, such as the success of our U.S. Senate races and our state legislature races, The GOP has won those consistently several years before Whatley even arrived in 2019. I mean, the last Senate race that the GOP lost was way back in 2008, and the last legislative cycle that the GOP lost control of the legislature in was also 2008. So the GOP actually had at nearly a decade of victory and dominance in winning U.S. Senate seats and state legislature seats as well. Number 2 reason against Michael Whatley. Most of the fundraising comes from the Republican National Committee and not individual donors. So why is that an issue? I mean, getting support from the RNC, sounds pretty good. But why actually is it not? Well, see, over 85% of Republican voters said in many polls, over 85% of Republicans said they did not want Rhonda McDaniel reelected to a 4th term at the beginning of 2023. So, Whatley, he had to vote for Rhonda McDaniel, and against the wishes of GOP voters, in order to keep the money flowing from the RNC to North Carolina. And the RNC gave more money to North Carolina than all other North Carolina donors combined. So in conclusion, the NCGOP is way too reliant on the RNC for funds when the RNC may not have the same objectives and goals as Republican donors who are just based in the state of North Carolina. That's another example of anti-grassroots and is a pro-top-down establishmentarian model of control, which is not good for growth in the NCGOP. It also should be said that, you start being too dependent on something, one day, you're going to get the rug pulled from out of you, and one day maybe Rhonda leaves, resigns, or is not reelected to RNC chair, and then the RNC, which has been given all this money, all of a sudden, rugs pulled down, and then because the Whatley administration has not built a good donor network in the state of North Carolina, what would happen is North Carolina GOP would be in some very bad, really awful and dire financial straits. So keep that in mind. Number 3. Michael Whatley has weakened the power and the purpose of the State Executive Committee. According to the State Plan of Organization, the State Executive Committee must meet twice a year. This is usually satisfied with one meeting being at the state convention every June and another meeting being in December. Now, I've been a member of the State Executive Committee since 2019, and I was also a member from 2011 to 2014 when I lived down in Wilmington. Every single time there was a meeting in December, by September, 3 months before the meeting, the NCGOP leadership at the time would always send me a notice in the mail. But for this last meeting, I never received a mail notice. Instead, I got an email over the weekend just after Thanksgiving. And that is a great weekend if you're trying to email something and you don't want people to know about it, right? So the meeting was scheduled for Saturday, December 3rd in Cary at a good accessible location just off of Interstate 40. Then, because the email was not sent to all the executive committee members originally, and it was not over the 10-day notice threshold, the meeting was rescheduled for December 17th in downtown Charlotte, in a horrible location that is not at all accessible to an interstate, and one has to pay over $10 an hour just to park a darn car. So at the December 17th meeting, come on, computer. At the December 17th meeting, quorum was not met. Surprise, surprise. And a censure of Tom Tillis could not be brought to the floor because you cannot conduct party business without a quorum. Number 4, Whatley has also weakened the executive committee. When the decision was made to cancel let me start that again. Number 4, Whatley has also weakened the executive committee. Okay. There was a decision made to cancel district conventions. Now, instead of going the pro-grassroots route and calling an emergency meeting of the state executive committee and letting us, the 600-member state executive committee, discuss canceling the district conventions and looking at the reason for and against this matter, Whatley, again, he bypassed the executive committee and he met with the central committee, which is stacked with mostly pro-Whatley parrots who will do whatever Whatley wants to do 99% of the time. And guess what? Nobody in the state executive committee was ever notified until after the meeting took place. In other words, no executive committee member had any opportunity to talk to their district chair about whether or not to hold district conventions. So the vote went down by a margin of about 17-3. So there were 17 members in favor of canceling district conventions, even though the plan of organization clearly states in Article 7 that district conventions must be held in April of odd number of years. The reason to cancel district conventions is supposedly, because redistricting needed to be completed. No. Now, as someone who has been around the NCGOP for over a decade now, I know that the whole redistricting card was played as a cop-out. This was all a way to protect Whatley's best buddy, Tom Tillis, from getting censured. And also, district conventions are a way to elect new party officers by the grassroots. And also, the district conventions are a good mechanism to get pro-grassroots mechanism to transfer the censures of Tom Tillis that come from the county level to the district level so that they don't die in the black hole known as the State Resolutions Committee. This would give the county censures of Tom Tillis more teeth, more bite, so that they go from county and then district votes in support of the censure, and then they almost always, unless there's a damn good reason not to, they almost always will automatically be supported by Resolutions Committee and don't die in the black hole. Okay, and number 5, the bad of Michael Whatley. Number 5 is he's made the state convention boring instead of having a spirited debate and floor fight. Whatley is doing everything he can to weaponize the convention committee so as little business as possible can be done on the convention floor. He put a staff member of Tom Tillis on the resolutions committee so that a censure of Tom Tillis is not brought to the convention floor. Think about it. He wanted to protect Tom Tillis so badly, they actually put a staff member of Tom Tillis on the resolutions committee. Okay? That's horrible. But another thing that's just unbelievable and just piss poor is that there were 53 counties out of the 100 counties in North Carolina, 53 of them censured Tom Tillis. So not only did he weaponize the resolutions committee, but also ignored the majority of Republicans in North Carolina. And also, when the plan organization met on May 29th in an emergency meeting to discuss whether or not Granville County could have their resolutions heard at the convention, guess what? Whatley was absent. But guess what? John Kane was there. So let me answer a couple questions. I think there are about 3 questions here, that usually 2 or 3 questions, because, listen, at the end of the day, this is an inter-party election. We're all Republicans. Whoever wins, we're all going to have to come together and work to defeat the Democrats in 2024. Now, I have a lot of good friends who are going to vote for Michael Whatley. And these are usually, the following 3 questions are usually kind of their reasons why. So I'm going to kind of look at their reasoning and then try my best to debate the reasoning or give my arguments against the reasoning. Okay. So, Bobby, why should I vote for John Kane? He has no political experience. Well, 2 of the greatest presidents, who are also Republican, by the way, let's see, Dwight D. Eisenhower and Donald J. Trump, also had no political experience. And they did just fine. Better than fine. They were outstanding. Another one. Bobby, listen, I see your reason about John Kane, but I just can't vote for him. He seems like a nice guy, but I just can't vote for him because he doesn't have connections with the donor class. I think the party's going to go broke if John Kane is elected, just like it did under Hassan Harnett. Actually, no. It will not go broke, I can guarantee that, because John Kane's own family has been a large donor for the NCGOP for decades. And John Kane has connections and endorsements from large donors, such as Jim Anthony of APG Company in Wake County. Okay. But what about the courts and then that Judicial Victory Fund? Yeah. Wally created that, didn't he? Well, as I said before, that was a idea from a Republican political consultant, Paul Shoemaker, who told Michael Whatley about that idea. Then Michael Whatley went to the Central Committee, and Michael Whatley and the Central Committee implemented that Judicial Victory Fund. Now, the Judicial Victory Fund, I actually asked that question to John Kane directly, and he thinks that it is a wonderful idea. And if elected, he has promised me he's going to keep it in place. Because after all, you can vote for all, you can send a supermajority of Republicans to the legislature in Raleigh. But guess what? If you don't have Republican control of the courts, you ain't going to get nothing accomplished. That's the bottom line. So yeah, John Kane is 100% committed to keeping the Judicial Victory Fund. Okay, and one more reason here to vote for John Kane is, if you like closed primaries, and really, what true grassroots conservative could be against closed primaries? I mean, if we get closed primaries here in North Carolina, we will not have to worry about phony left-leaning independents and rhinos voting in an election to determine the Republican Party nominee. Okay? If you have any questions or comments about anything, please let me know. And you can put them right down in the comment box for YouTube. And if you see me at convention, want to ask any questions, I am all ears. Thank you. Bye-bye.